welcome to the stage David Inns, the CEO of GreatCall, and I love his New Year's resolution. He would like to drink less beer. Let's welcome him to the stage.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk to you very quickly about, we do a lot of work, obviously, with older consumers, so I'm going to talk very quickly about 6 keys to succeeding in digital health with older consumers and the older population. And the clicker's, oh, there we go. Okay, number 1, you can't solve today's problem of connected health for the older consumer with apps. Because if you look at the 65 plus population and simplify it down into really 2 groups, where all the smartphone penetration is happening is in the most active and engaged seniors that still are probably married and living with their spouse, have active family life, and where most of the healthcare costs are in a group that are feeling very vulnerable, have chronic disease, and are actually more often single or have lost their spouse. And this is where all the healthcare costs are, and the smartphone penetration there is less than 5%, and it's actually not increasing very quickly. So the first thing is, if we're really going to make an impact today, we need to think beyond the app. The second thing is we need to solve the adoption problem with simplicity and service. This means no over-engineering. So I see so many devices now that come from just trying to put the latest and greatest things into the technology. When it comes to serving the older population, that is just not going to work. Because the more things you put in, the more likely there is going to be confusion and then lack of adoption. And so what we like to talk about is minimizing the barriers. We look at every single stage of the process, from the buying process through to the actual getting up and using and then continuing to use the product, and making sure that every single barrier has been minimized. And if there is a barrier, there has to be some service there, because what does the older consumer need to do? They need to talk to somebody who's actually going to help them get through that barrier. So the second thing is solving the adoption problem with simplicity and service. The third thing is focusing on solving problems, not technology. Cool is not cool for the older consumer. Cool is definitely not cool. They do not buy technology for technology's sake, unlike probably a lot of people in this room who will go out and buy a piece of technology because it's really cool, and they play with it for a little bit, and then they put it in a drawer and they forget about it. That's exactly what we're not trying to achieve. So always looking at the actual problem that the consumer has, whether it's fear of falling or fear of leaving the house or feeling more connected, whatever that emotional problem is, making sure the product solves that and that it's not just about the technology. The fourth thing is engaging family members. Engaging family members, because the family caregivers are an important part of the process of serving the older consumer. First of all, there's a recent study that showed, a RAND study that took the number of hours of family caregiving that are being spent today in the United States and multiplied it by the minimum wage and found that it costs about $522 billion a year. That's the economics of this situation, and it's only getting worse, where more and more people are having to spend a lot of time engaged in the family caregiving process. And why? Because it's not efficient. Because people aren't using technology that can help them interact with and take care of their parents and have them stay independent longer, or leverage services that can help take some of the burden off of the family caregiver. The other thing to think about the caregiver is they're a very important decision maker in anything that you're doing with the older consumer. So you may think you can sell something to an older consumer and then find out a month later that they're returning the product because the family caregiver got involved and said, "Mom, what are you doing? You shouldn't buy that. Here's this really cool device I just saw at CES. You should use this instead." And so it's a really important part of the process to maintain and engage those family caregivers. The fifth thing is, can you go direct to the consumer? I see so many companies that are trying to address the senior population by going through the commercial healthcare channels and really struggling to get traction and adoption in the commercial healthcare channels because there's pilotitis going on, right? So there's this crazy disease in the digital health world in the commercial side, and it's pilotitis, where everyone's piloting and nobody's rolling out. So if you can go to consumer, this is a space where there are a lot of people with a lot of money with a very real problem that are willing to spend on actually you helping them solve their problem. Now the problem is, if you're going to consumer, you need a lot of capital, unless of course you have some sort of viral secret and you can have everybody buy your products with no marketing budgets, but that doesn't happen very often. All right, the sixth thing is to understand that this space is still early and that everyone has to be patient. So one of the things that we've really looked at and tried to understand is where this market actually is in its life cycle. And it is still very low. One of the best ways to look at that is to look at some categorization of Google searches and compare that to other products that are out there in the marketplace. So this is kind of interesting, and this is simplified, by the way. I've had to categorize things around caregiving. But caregiving as a general category on Google has about 28,000 monthly searches in the US. Independent living has about 48,000. Medical alert has about 31,000. Baby monitor has 450,000. What's going on here? This is crazy. There's 20 million seniors that could benefit from active aging technology, and there's about 40 million plus family caregivers that could actually benefit from the technology and helping them interact and keep their parents independent longer. And there's only 4 million babies born each year, and yet this is happening. So to me, I look at that data and I say, what is really going on is that this market is still not growing. The greatest example I can always think of is people are not waking up in the morning. It's primary demand versus secondary demand. People are not waking up in the morning and saying, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll go down to the local store and decide which of the aging healthcare technologies I'm going to buy for my mom today. That doesn't happen, right? It's not like big screen TVs where you wake up and you say, oh, I'm going to buy a big screen TV today. You walk into Best Buy or go online and you look at all the different types and you choose one. That's not happening. We still have to actually get people to understand that there's technology out there that can help. And until that awareness continues to increase, it's definitely continues to be harder and harder to continue to market. But that number is going to keep growing and keep growing. Because right now, the one technology people know about is medical alert. Right? That's what people go into their mind when they think, oh, my mom's starting to lose some independence. Maybe I should look into this medical alert. But that industry is completely changing with a lot of new devices and capabilities that we can actually use to help improve the health and the safety of the older consumer. So those are the 6 keys that I wanted to highlight today. Again, to just go through them. Number 1, you can't solve today's problems with apps alone. Number 2, you got to solve the adoption problem with simplicity and service, because adoption is the key challenge for the older consumer. 3, you need to focus on solving problems. Don't focus on the technology. 4, engage the family caregiver, a very important part of the process and a huge economic challenge for the country. 5, can you go direct to the consumer? And 6, understand it's still early and be very patient. Thank you very much.